Shall we do the TFNation video? Yeah, can't believe it's already been long enough that I've got all this beard back, but so as ever, I haven't got anything bad to say about TFNation. Why would I? It's always good. It's always a wonderful weekend, best of the year, top stuff. I've tried to keep it a little bit more chill this year, I think. I arrived on the Friday, very tired, just because it's a long journey, but I don't know, something about it just hit me a bit more. I did not stay up particularly late that night, and neither on the Saturday either, really. This year, the main emotion was, no, let's go to bed now. And that's kind of a negative thing, that's a bit of a downer, but it didn't really impact on the time that I had in the end, so it's all right. Aging and all that, I suppose. I used to know how to party about 2 years in my 20s. Anyway, I'm sure what you all really want to know is how well the zine did. It was really good. Like, I didn't have enough. I did not have enough with me. 100 copies is no longer enough for us to do. So next year I'm going to have to do some more. It's been something that we've thought about a lot as we've been doing this. Oh, should this year be the point where we go over that 100 amount? And it's never really felt like that's necessary, but next year it feels like that's going to be necessary. It was mad, and it was like, you know, I had people like Andy Turnbull coming up to me and like leading other people over and like saying, oh, they'd like a zine, I'd like one as well if you got any left. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't have any. Multiple times, you know, people would be coming and asking me when I did still have some left, and I'll be looking about and going, oh yeah, I'll just get you one. And it's like, oh, I haven't got any left, I need to go and get some more. And it was like, I only made a couple of trips back up to my room to restock them. And it was just like, yeah, no, they're gone. Like, what? What's going on? Thank you. Thank you for the response to that. I see that the ones that got sent to America, as far away as America, are now turning up. I saw that Brent and Andy got their copy the other day. So hopefully now, if you ordered yours and you live further away, you've got yours as well, and they're all in the hands of people who wanted one. Except they're not, because there were more people that wanted one than could get one. Yeah, but if you put your name down, hopefully you've got it. It was just great to see the response to this, handing it to people and go, oh, this is really good, isn't it? And people coming over and go, oh, can I have another one for my mate? And it's like, all right, yeah. I suppose by this point I should be less humble about it. Like, yeah, of course everyone's going to want it. It's the best thing in the world, isn't it? Anyway, you're really here to see what I done got. And I'm going to have to delay you on that front for a little bit, because I want to talk about things I was given. Because as I always give out the zine for free to people, it's nice to see that other people are just sort of bandy about other gear to give you community spirit. So the very first thing I received on the Friday night, as I was sitting there eating me incredibly expensive fish and chips in the bar, our Joe of the Crosshairs Productions came and gave me a 3D printed gun for this Rise of the Beasts Optimus, because he knew I had one of these. And I've painted it all up, so it's all, you know, gunmetal and red where it should be red, and I've done the little sort of ring of yellow in there. Fits nice and snug on his arm and looks a hell of a lot better than the one he comes with, that's so small you could probably just inhale it up your nose and lose it forever. I'm afraid I can't credit who actually like made the files for this to get it printed out. I don't know who it was. I'm going to need to look that up. And if it was you, please do shout out and credit yourself for it, because I don't know. All I know is that Joe printed it out. I don't know who actually designed it, but that's cool. Something else I was very kindly gifted was a random Micron booster minicon. So Lee of the Spider Father name was going around with, I think the Volume 4 Micron booster, little boxes that he had a whole case of all the way from Japan. He was just giving them to people, and it's like, these are rare, all right, thank you very much. So what I have here is something you might not have seen before. I'm not entirely sure I have ever seen it before. This is a bloke called Refuser. He is a repaint of one of the Classics minicons, so he's a little bit weird. All those Classics ones are just strange toys, really. I mean, look at the placement of the wheels on his chest there. did you stop and think about that for 5 seconds? But you know, this is the second version of this guy I've got. I've got a universe one called Knockdown, who's black and purple. But this is Refuser. He is bright green. He's got some sort of camo stuff going on the sides of his dump truck mode, and he hasn't got any paint on his face. A very odd little fellow. Seems to be a thing where Takara think that dump trucks are used for hauling rubbish. So that's sort of where his name comes from, like refuse. I don't know. Yeah, little kind of mini long haul looking fella. And then the final freebie was a pair of lovely postcards from our Becca, who I only saw through the whole weekend on, like, as I was eating my breakfast on Saturday. It was like I was there just sort of trying to get through a hash brown and sipping on my orange juice, and they came along and gave me some nice postcards and said see you later, and then I never did see him later. Next up, keeping up with things that people have made. This wasn't a freebie, I did actually pay for it, but all the same, it's very cool to see that someone had put together a kit of proper shoulders for the new Armada Megatron. Sam's Forge is who you want to look for if you want to get a set of these, because they're rather nice. It's all very good. 3D printed set of joints to go in here, and to just let the arms do that. Just let the arms do that. I mean, it does give a little bit more range that way, which I also enjoy. But like, yeah, this toy needed that. It's very, very good otherwise, but just being able to move these bloody enormous chunks, just to get them to go forward just a tiny bit, just for a sort of natural power stance, is so good and just elevates this just so far. I do kind of worry about how long they'll last or hold up, but it lets you get the big poses out, so I'm very happy with that. And it was a bit of fun to install them once I actually worked out how to get all the bloody screws that are in this guy's back, because there are so many. You have to take the whole damn thing apart just to get at these shoulders, but in the end it was worth it. It's just nice to just have it work like I want it to work. And the final item before we get into the real plastic meat and potatoes, it's the Toy-Fu zine, TMUK. It's not a zine anymore. I'm sorry, it's not a zine anymore, lads. This is a book. You see that? It's got a spine. It's enormous. Loads of full colour glossy pages in here. It's weighty. That's a book. And of course, you know, these days you pay for it, and it's like, bloody well should be paying for it. It's enormous. This is a real top grade production here. It's all about GoBots this time. I really like how this one feels genuinely informative, because I don't know a lot about GoBots, you know. There's just loads of good stuff in here, and I love this. I love the guide of like all of them, or nearly all of them, because for some reason there's combinators, isn't there? There's ones that are like duocons, and they don't get their own entries for some reason. But all the little GoBots are all in here, and ones that I have had, like Snoop and Heat Seeker. I can read about them and see what other people think about them, and find out a little bit more than just what I have known handling them when I bought them randomly on eBay. And what I love about the fact that these are so big now, is that it gives you loads of reading material that lasts a good while. Maybe not a full week, you know, it depends how into it you are. But a good while after you've come home from the convention, you can sit there and be like, oh yeah, let's pick up the book and have a read. Yeah, I haven't read this bit yet. Yeah. Just keep that vibe going just a little bit longer. It's encouraged me to make a little zine corner on the bookcase down here where you can't see, but it's there. I've decided now that these things, they're just too important to me to keep in a box. Like for years, I've just kept all like the A5 ones just in an old Generation Selects box, and I get them out every now and then and have a look. No, put them on the shelf. Some of these have got spines on them now. They're proper books. Put them there so I can get them out whenever I feel like having a look at all these lovely things that people have made, and also more easily refer to the stuff that I have made, because you need to do that when you're making your own one quite a lot. But now is the time that you're really here for, I suppose. Everyone always just wants to see what robots you got, what you got. Just the same as on the weekend, whenever you bump into someone you know, it's like, oh, what have you got in your bag? Let's have a look. watching here. So now here is me sort of virtually doing that to you now. This wasn't the first thing I got, but it's small, needs to get out of the way. Here is Crosswise, the last RID spy changer I need to get in his little tiny tin. I have read about the tiny tins on the wiki, because whenever you want to go and look up one of these, there's always an entry about these. Why did they make these? Why are these the only Transformers that have ever had little funny tins that come with them? And what am I going to do with the tin now? I don't know. But it was very handy to have on me at the weekend, because I just put everyone's guns and bits in there, and could chuck that in my bag and they could all rattle around, and you know, I don't lose anything. But yeah, what I'm now going to do with a metal tin slapped on every single surface with the likeness of a very obscure character that doesn't really mean anything to me, I don't know, but I suppose it was cool to have. And if I'd actually paid more attention, I could have got one of these without the tin, and you know, solved the whole kind of intellectual dilemma of the existence of this object. But then I wouldn't be able to talk to you about it and do that funny little do moment I did a minute ago. Crosswise himself is see-through. I don't think I've got any other see-through spy changers. I know they've literally done every single one of these in see-through rare variants that are all like gummy sweet flavours and whatever. But this is the first see-through one I've got, and it's weird because it's like, are they springs in his arms? Like, I would never have thought that that was how these were put together. But really the only thing to mention with him is that he finishes my spy changers. And now I feel like I need to go back and get some of the ones that I got loose without the guns and get all nice shiny new fresh versions of like Hotshot and Rev, which they did have there, and I did look at and thought, I'm not spending money on the same thing again, not now, save it for something better. And I did that. I managed to pick up a few nice RID bits actually. It's always nice to just see a nice spread of them, and especially on the Space Bridge where I got all this stuff from, there was a nice little cache of Robots in Disguise goodness, which is always nice to see, because no matter how much I get of it, it still feels like it's a line that I didn't pay enough attention to. I know I didn't pay enough attention to it at the time, but I have since paid so much attention to it that it's like, how is there still stuff that I haven't got? A large section of which I'm now aware of is the build team, because I got Hightower and he is brilliant. What a good toy this is. I've only got Grimlock as the other one. I can't make a landfill yet. I probably could have got the other bits there on the weekend if I really tried. I did pick up a wedge, but I thought, no, you know what? Let's make it a thing. Let's just get another one next year, and then maybe get the last one after that. I don't know. Let's see how we go. I'm happy with just Hightower here at the moment. What a nice chunk. What a brick of a man. But also like a really weird sort of robot. Like the way his arms are made out of the whole sort of sides like that. And they work a little bit oddly, but they give him a nice shape, I think. Good detail. He's a handsome fella with big leggies and got a big like crane boom gun goes up over his head here, or can come off and go in his hand. And he's got a little tiny sort of pistol as well. It's like the only one of them that has that, and that goes in the window, like the cab of the crane mode, and then you close it over it, and then you hear it explode off the little mount that it is in there, and then just rattles around in there. So it's like, why? What's going on with the design of that? Something weird there. There's weird stuff going on here with this sort of hinge as well. Like, why have you got all this? What's the point of having that there? And then there's the fact, like, you have to tear his whole head off to transform him. You have to do that. Such a strange toy in strange ways, and it's just one of those deluxes that really feels like, yeah, they don't make them like that anymore, do they? And all that's before I'm turning him into like a leg or arms or whatever to combine him with the other ones. Fantastic. Far from perfect, but fantastic. Within minutes of buying him, I went and got Energon Terradive here, which is something that I did already have a version of. It's just he was a bit knackered and he had the wrong gun. So I just went and bought a fresh new one that was all sealed, and yes, nice. I need one more. I need tread shot for the Superion combiner. And I need a few bits and pieces for like the Devastator and Bruticus ones, but getting ever closer to complete Energon Combiner supremacy. But that doesn't really matter that much. I don't think at the end of the day I'm not doing this to complete the combiners, because the combiners themselves are cack. The toys that make them up, however, are all really good. They've all got light piping, they're all fully articulated. These are just great little basic figures. And I think part of it is just simply the fact that it's almost like, for these, you can't say the same about the torsos, but for these guys, the limbs, it's almost like the combining bit was added on afterwards. It's like that's the afterthought. It's not the robot or vehicle modes, for once. It's the leg or arm modes that are weak and lacking, because the actual individual figures on their own without all the others are really, really good. But let's come back to the year 2023 and look at the very first things I actually picked up. It's the G2 Yellow Sideswipe. This was the first thing I basically zeroed in on ID's stall, because, you know, as soon as I found out they were actually making this real, I was like, I've got to have it. That's such a good deco, isn't it? Like the teal fade up the back of the car on the yellow. It's so 90s, but it's so cool. I love the sort of vaporwave chest decal that he's got there, and it's on the sides of the car as well. Very, very nice, but also at the same time I'm very aware that I'm not as taken with it as I thought I would be. Like, it's just like, yes, it's nice to have. I'm very glad to have it. Very glad that it exists, and this whole line of these, it's great that they exist. I don't know how many more of them I'm going to buy, but to have this funky yellow sideswipe is great. I just feel like I might be sideswiped out. You know, there's like, what, 15 versions of this mold? And not very long ago, I got the Shattered Glass one, which is teal and is based on Armada Wheeljack. So that's obviously the superior one. So, I don't know. Yellow Sideswipe is here. I like him, but I'm not in love with him. I also picked up Medics while I picked him up. This was a figure that I really wasn't that fussed about at all. But as I saw sort of more pictures of it, I thought, oh, you know what, that's kind of fresh. I'm kind of enjoying how that looks. And then seeing it in person, it was just like, no, I'm going to buy that. It feels like this is the sort of thing that could have been a kind of, you know, surprise contender for something I really like. And I do really like it, but I don't think it's quite hit that spot. I didn't buy Crankcase. This is a sort of redo of Crankcase, mainly because the sort of black and blue look for him was just really boring. I just think it's such a dull toy. But do it in fresh white high vis sort of ambulance look like this, the orange, the bright green, the see-through blue that you've got going on. Give it the cross-cut head, which is very nice actually, and slap in both of Minerva's guns in like Energon Weapon Red as bonus bits. This is a very good deluxe, yes. I feel like there's a bit of a sort of movie Ratchet vibe going on with the sort of colours and look, like especially if you stick that back on his chest and give him the lights there like that. Yeah, I like it. It's good, even though when I heard they were doing a toy of Medics, I was like, no, thank you. I've seen one episode of Rescue Bots Academy. He's in that, and he's really mean to Hotshot. He's a really spiteful little goblin, horrible, horrible creature. But at least this Medics doesn't look anything like that Medics, because in a weird move, this is apparently based on the BotCon custom class Medics figure that they did. Like, super obscure rare pull to just do not a regular retail because he's a weird exclusive, but to do a retail toy of. Another bit of new gear I got off in demand was Rise of the Beast Scorponok. For whatever reason, they put this in the weird buzzworthy Bumblebee exclusive line, so you can't just go in a shop and buy it in this country. So when I saw him, I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to buy that. I've really enjoyed this particular price point. Got Primal, got Prime, got the Wheeljack. Very much want to find the RC. But it's kind of sad that seems like all of them. Not enough Rise of the Beast figures. Not enough just mainline normal ones, it seems. Like, why isn't there a third wave? I want a Scourge that isn't the big Studio Series one, even though I did buy that one. But Scorponok, yeah. What a weird thing this is. For a start, he's holding another Scorpion. This is Sand Spear. and you can see straight away that's crap. It's literally just holding a scorpion up and pointing its tail at you to stab you with. Turn him into his own little creature, and it's kind of a disconcertingly realistic scorpion, actually. Rubbish weapon modes aside, though, I kind of like this little guy. Like, his claws are perpetually just, he's doing this. He's doing this. Like, all the time, perpetually. But also, you can put, like, guns in his claws. You can just have a scorpion holding some guns. Great, just nuts, mad little, very subpar toy, but at the same time just full of kind of character. It's kind of cool as well that, you know, by just buying this one set, you get 2 scorpions because there were loads of them in the film for some reason, so it's like an instant army builder kind of set. Scorponok himself, though, is just a big kind of guy. You know, these toys are ever so slightly smaller than a regular deluxe. This one feels a bit bigger, but he is very simple. Like, look, he's mostly just hollow and empty. You can see how he transforms. You just put his legs around onto his back and flip up Scorpion head, and you're done, basically. But I love the kind of texture that he's got going on. He's all sort of, looks all sort of mossy and mottled. I like that. Chitinous, and he's got all the sort of turbine bits because they carried over some of the sort of details from the first movie Scorponok, didn't they? And it just makes me think, well, if Rise of the Beasts actually is a prequel to the Michael Bay films, you can kind of imagine that the Scorponok in that is like the last one left out of all of these ones that you see in this film, and like Blackout has kept him as a pet, and I don't know. This toy is fun. You know, it's not really very good because it's incredibly cheap, but it is very sturdy and solid, big, poseable, characterful. He's going to hit you with his tail, but the main thing to talk about with this toy is the absolutely nuts apparent design origin that it has. I mean, obviously we don't know for sure. No one's going to come along and say, yes, all I did was Google image search Scorponok movie and took one of the first robot heads I came across to use for the design basis for this toy. Because that's clearly what they did, because he's got bloody Revenge of the Fallen Dead End's head. Because if you Google movie Scorponok, one of the first, if not the first, robot mode images you see is a custom someone made years ago where they used Dead End's head for him. And that's what they've based this toy off of. It's mad. And knowing that, just for that fact, it was like, I've got to buy that. I've got to have that in my collection. That's such a stupid oddity. You know, they've even sculpted the stripes on the top of his head that Dead End had. Absolutely mad. Did the guys at Takara notice and just be like, oh, mad lad, do it, go on, son, do it, mad lad. And they did, they absolutely did. But I will say it actually works really well for a kind of buggy Monster Man robot look, I think. It kind of gives him a sort of B-movie vibe with that sort of, the visor just looking like that. I think it works. Getting towards the end of the Saturday purchases now, I went back to the Space Bridge and just stood there, just like right in the middle of everything, on top of a few other things, just like really prominently, was Robot Masters Mirage, sealed in his box for 15 quid. And I was like, is there a mistake here? Has it been opened before? No, all the tape was still intact, completely sealed, brand new, mate. 15 quid. I've seen these loose go for at least 20. Like, what was going on there? Did someone make a mistake? Who knows? But I've got a really good toy here for a very good price because this is gorgeous. I do have this mold as RID skids, but to actually have it look like Mirage is so good. Like, this is just the full realization of that toy. Perfect deco, gorgeous yellow light piping, kind of silly sort of like racing decals where they've just stuck the Robot Masters logo on him, but also a nice chrome gun that he can't quite hold properly because it was made for a Micro Man figure and not for a Transformer. But that's a nice touch that adds a little bit more sort of G1 flavour to him, you know. It's like, all in all, especially with like the size of him as well, it almost feels like this is like a consolation prize for them not being able to reissue Mirage, because he's one of the molds that is like broken or lost and they can't ever do a new version of him officially. You can probably find a knockoff of him, but that's what that is. It's a knockoff, it's not a real reissue, no matter what eBay tells you it is. They've never been able to rerun the G1 Mirage toy. So this kind of feels like the next best thing. And of course the fact it's posable and has light piping and like changes automatically, it's all great. This is a wonderful, wonderful, gorgeous toy, and it's making me feel like I'm going to do a video particularly about Robot Masters next, because I think there's some things in there that I would like to unpack in more depth. And like, why is this the only toy of Mirage I bought this year? Why have I still not been able to get any Rise of the Beasts ones when he's the main character in the film? Couldn't even get any at TFN. No one had any Mirage toys. No, no, no. Let's wrap up Saturday now with something that's very nice indeed. It was the most expensive thing I bought, but that's because it's like the nicest presentation. Yes, it's my nice slice of book box reissue, because I always try to go for one of these now. This is proper prestige stuff. To me, there has never been a better presentation of any Transformers toy. You know, getting a little sort of booklet in there, and you open it up and there's lovely Smoke Screen sitting in his box, looking all wonderful, looking a little bit better than when I bought him, because this is one that I passed over last year, because I picked it up and opened the flap and went, oh, for God's sake, whoever had this first has put the Autobot badge over the 38 on his front. Why would you do that? Even though, yes, the pictures actually do that. You know, it does it on the box. It does it in the Japanese Transformers Generations Deluxe book, which I recently got a new copy of. You know, so many official sources tell you to cover up the number with the badge, but it looks bad. Do you not see it looks bad? So I could tell, like, that's why no one has bought this. That's why it's here again this year. And I basically just went, well, you know what? I'm aware of that. You know, I held this last year and made the same face at it. Why don't I just buy it and fix it? You know, I want a smoke screen. So that's what I did. There we go. I've done it. It's fine. The sticker came off the other sticker perfectly fine. Along with fixing the bad sticker, I also put the sticker on his windscreen there, because the instructions don't tell you anything about it. It just don't mention it at all. So obviously, whoever had the small enough brain to put that sticker there left that off because they weren't told where to put it. I don't want to be. I'm sorry if this was your smokescreen. I'm just making it like a complete idiot. But yeah, I have used my brain and made it look better. So there we go. That's nice. That's this year's lovely slice of G1 that I have not had the chance to properly experience. I have had a go on a friend of mine's. His big brother had a completely knackered smoke screen that, like, the top of it was off and it was just mangled. But there was enough of it there to make me think, oh, I would like one that's in like one piece. So there we go. That's my first G1 Datsun. I don't think I want the others, but I have to say Prowl does look kind of appealing. I don't know. But I think it's interesting, after having Jazz and Stepper, I can look at this and it's like, you can kind of see where this is the same as the Porsche and they've just sort of refined it. That's what it feels like to me, you know, like the whole upper body kind of transforms the same way, but just in a way that's a bit more efficient. Don't know. Maybe this one did come first, I don't know, but it feels like that's what happened in the old Diaclone days. Sunday. I love Sunday at TFN, even though, you know, you've got the kind of combo manoeuvre of having to check out of the hotel room relatively early, so you're carrying all your stuff around all day until the point where you've got to kind of cut things off a bit early because you've got to go home and get the train. Yeah, I don't know, it was a bit annoying actually this year, because I could have got a later train, absolutely could have stayed at least another hour. But no, I didn't really think about it, and it was like, oh, sorry lads, I've got to go home. And it's just one of those things where it just finishes. It just ends, stops so abruptly, and you're there standing waiting at the train station thinking, oh yeah, that was today. But before that happens, you get to enjoy a much more chill time. Like, there's no crush in the dealer room, there's plenty of space. You can just wander around with your mates and actually get to look at everything that's on every stall, because there isn't 5 people in front of you, and you can go, oh yeah, look at this, you know, pick up stuff and chat about it and think, oh, haha, I'm going to buy that. And, you know, really get your eye in, find some interesting, weird stuff. And it's like, okay, so a lot of the big bargains or the really, really rare stuff is probably gone by that point. But who gives a monkeys? There's still gems to be found. And gems I did find on that Sunday. Starting off with a trio of Cybertron lads from Toy Fu. This is Snarl, and I feel like I've just not seen him since 2005. He just couldn't find these. I don't know what the deal is there, or whether I just was entirely in the wrong place at the wrong time for all of these years, because I've never seen one. I've never seen one at a convention. Not even seen any on eBay. But I remembered the look of this guy from seeing him in the shops, you know, maybe once or twice back in the day, and just thinking there are some really distinct shapes and colours. There's just a really nice look about this guy, especially in his wolf mode. That just stuck in my brain. There's something kind of unique, even though, you know, it skews more to the kind of like Beast Wars Transmetal 2 look a lot of the Cybertron Beast Planet guys did. But of course I couldn't find one, so no, I couldn't capitalise on the fact that I already like how he looks. And then I just saw him just stood there on Toy Foo's table and thought, you're having a laugh. There's 2 of them there. And then I went round and there was like another one on someone else's stall, and it's like, what's going on? Like, suddenly there's Snarls everywhere. It was a bit weird actually picking him up off Toy Fu. He was stood right next to another one, but like the legs were on the other way round. Like the yellow bits on his thighs here were at the backs of his legs, and I was looking at them both and thinking, well, which one's right? What's he supposed to look like? I don't know. And I had to look it up, and like, yes, I can see why whoever did that swapped the legs round, because you would get more bend out of his knees if you did that. But this is how he's supposed to look, so there you go. Is he the only one that you can store the key on his person, so you don't have to just chuck it somewhere? Yeah, that's cool, that's fun. Yeah, Snarl, Dogson. And then along with him, I picked up Hardtop, who's a guy that I've kind of always been sort of hovering over. It's like I've had him on my eBay watch list on and off forever. Because I've got the sort of grey, drab, militaristic movie version of him. And it's like, I know this is a really good toy. It's a really good little scout. And then, of course, you do it in this deco. Purple and teal and gold. And it's like, yes, no, this is the superior one. So when I saw him stood there with all the other bunch of Cybertron lads on Toy Fu's table, it was like, right, yoink, no, you're coming on with me today. We're finally doing it. We're going for Cybertron Hardtop. He is great. And of course, like, he turned up in Earthspark, didn't he? Like, he's the just random Decepticon that gets maimed to get turned into cyborg bits. And it's like, why did you pick Hardtop of all people? Like, he's in a cartoon now, like modern and everything. Like, please do a new toy of him. And then, just because I was sort of filling up my arms with Cybertron toys anyway, I thought, yeah, let's do it. Because I saw him standing there all glittering and golden. It's Soundwave. I've had the Universe Blaster version of this forever. I think it was the first thing I ever bought from Smides when it opened up around here. But this is where it's at, isn't it? Like, that blaster isn't too bad. It's not as bad as you think it is. But it's made to be Soundwave, and it's so cool to just have a different take on him. You know, it's like this was the first different take on a Soundwave. Make him a space stealth bomber jet. Yeah, why not? Have bombs fall out of him and stuff, and it's great. Kind of oddly skinny and that, and I don't like how his legs go from there to all the way out there, and then you've got to contend with this weird sort of bow-legged bandy joint in here for the transformation, so his legs are a bit annoying. They're too stiff, basically. And then his arms have got all this junk on them. It's like, it's a cool design, but it's very far from perfect, you know, like this arm. Bloopily doopily cockpit section, but it's cool. I'm glad to have finally actually just picked this up, because I feel like I could have just kept going on forever and ever, just knowing that this toy is out there, knowing that it's all right to moderately good, and just thinking, oh, yeah, I don't really need it, I do, mate. But now I've got it, it's like, yeah, no, it's great. It's just nice, shiny, see-through purple bits. You got the laser beak, comes out of his chest, and now I actually know how to transform it properly after all these years. I've been doing Blaster wrong. I've been making that hip section jut out where it shouldn't. It's supposed to fold in all nice and neat and actually clips in and becomes streamlined, like I've only just found that out. So yeah, Soundwave, you're all right, mate. Next, I wandered back round to the space bridge because there's loads of lovely stuff on there stored all the time. So I got Towline and Skyfire. They had been opened, but they've been put back in their thing. So all their bits are in their package and all that as a pair. I'm going to talk about Skyfire first because he's absolutely the least interesting part of this set. He's boring. The only real thing to talk about is the fact he's called Skyfire. Like, all right, like there's never actually been a toy called Skyfire. It was Jetfire's name in the cartoon, and that was about it. Why is this bloke called Skyfire? Why couldn't they just call him Skywarp? Doesn't he look more like a Skywarp? But there's no like big names like that in RID, is there? It's like they, wherever they could, went for making new characters and sticking new names on guys, which I really appreciate because it makes it feel like something unique and more like a continuation of something. Don't know what, but something. To be called Skyfire makes him a bit more interesting. And when he's all dull grey like this, I'm glad he's got something interesting going for him that I can talk about in a video, because otherwise it would just be like, here he is, there you go. But Towline is the absolute star here, possibly of my entire haul. Actually, I'm absolutely smitten with this little guy. I could have got the brand new, like Junkion scrapbook repaint from Legacy, but it's not this guy, is it? It's not this bloke. It's some crazy Mad Max thing that's painted up in his colours. And yes, his colours are certainly an enormous part of the draw here. But when I found this, I was just like, oh, that's nice. I can get the proper one now and forget about that one. This is the real Towline, and I'm so happy to have it. What an interesting little man. Like, I love his shapes. The colours are obviously brilliant. But like the way the truck sort of angles down like this, and you've got all the exhausts and like horns, all the silver bits, and the lights up here, and his light pipe in, and his face. And it's interesting, and it's really turned me on to these flip changer guys, which I now have a version of all of them. But it's like, why are there only 4 of them? Why did you only do an F1 car that's absolutely only Mirage and a tow truck for Autobot ones? Like, why wasn't there just a normal car? Or like, why wasn't there a tank Decepticon? Why did you do 2 jets that are basically exactly the same? And then why do 3 out of 4 of them basically all work the same way, with like a 2-part gun that hides in their legs? And then Towline doesn't do that. He breaks the mold completely. He does something completely different with extra like flaps going on and mechanisms, and you take the shiny grill off, which is a little bit worn. I've had to get my chrome pen on that. I've tried not to go overboard with it because it's like the chrome pen does not have the luster of the original chrome that is still on there. So it's like, I want to fix it up, make it look a bit better, but let's be conservative about it. I don't know. Anyway, take that off, and that's his gun. Comes off his tummy. You can leave it there if you want, or you can put it in his hand, and he's got a gun now, which is a bit weird. Why would you make that section of the vehicle into a gun? But it's different, and it just makes me think, oh hello, like what else was on the drawing board, like beyond Towline? What was the next one they would have finalised a design for or come up with, you know, that might have worked more like he does? All of that kind of G2 like taken off the table years, all of that stuff that just, well, obviously a lot of it did come out in the end, but all that stuff that was cancelled and all those ideas that just got not put in the bin, really, because obviously a lot of them have turned up over the years, but like, just, no, we're not doing that now kind of energy. Like, oh, there's potential there that should have and really would have been great, wouldn't it? Yeah, I want to live in the timeline where there's just like one more flip changer. I could absolutely continue very, very naturally and nicely along that line of thought into the next toy, but I have to break it up because I want to talk about it last. So let's just talk about Core Shockwave. This is another guy that I've been sort of umming and ahhing over for ages, because it's like, buying core figures online feels expensive. Like, I can't get them in shops. They don't do them in shops here. So you've got to spend roughly, once you put the postage in, about 15 quid for one, and they're not worth that. Like, they're not scouts. They're more like those old Cyberverse commanders. Wow, those are those are two words that mean something completely different in 2023, aren't they? But I thought I would kind of like Shockwave just as something a bit different, as another mould of one of these at this size, because I'm not buying repaints of these. I'm enforcing that rule onto myself. I'm only buying one version of each of these moulds. So the only Seeker I've got is Skywarp, because they're just not worth it. I want them to be just little interesting toys to pick up and fiddle with at odd moments, really. So buying repaints of things like that, it's just, there's no point. And when I saw him on a stall there at TFN, it was like, all right, well, let's just do it. Let's just get it out of the way. You can come home with me, and I don't have to pay too much money for you. Because he's an odd little fella, actually. You know, like this thing. Let's get this out of the way. The elephant in the room is this massive dish. Like, why does he come with that? You know, like, it's not a reference to anything. Like, why is it there? And he has to hold it like a gun, even though it's covered in little, like, different pegs and ports. But there's nowhere on his body that is any good that lets it, like, attach and face forward like it should. Like, you can stick it up here, but then it's pointing straight up. Or you can stick it on your shoulder, but then it's pointing that way. Like, what's the idea here? So I just stick it on his gun arm because that looks silly. But because of this dominating the whole sort of conversation around this toy, I completely missed the fact that his vehicle mode is just a tiny version of the Siege spaceship. Like, it's exactly the same thing, even down to the little bridge with the little, like, cyclopean eye on it. Siege Shockwave is obviously very good by virtue of being the only real generation Shockwave. I'm not sure how I feel about his, like, thick shins and all the sort of greebly detail. I'm ready for him to do another one, but I can also appreciate the fact that that's not going to happen for a long time. And this toy is just a small version of that. So, yeah, I don't know, he's a bit floppy as well. So he's not great, he's not brilliant, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad to have him. And isn't it weird that we've got all, like, the big main Decepticons in core class, but the only Autobots are like Optimus and Hot Rod and like Dinobots? Where are all the cars? Where is a Jazz? Give me a Jazz and a Wheeljack and a Mirage. Do some cars at this size. But if that toy was slightly unsavoury, let's completely just blitz the entire palate of your mouth out with what is the absolute pinnacle of just flavour here, right? It's G2 Tiger Stripe Grimlock. Oh, baby! This is just sublime. I've got to be honest, after I saw in-hand pictures of this, and, you know, it was made clear that the stripes don't go any further than his legs. There aren't any anywhere else. And you've got this stupid tampograph covering up his Autobot badge that's sculpted under there that you can still see half of. I was a bit like, oh, mate, nah, don't know about that. Don't know. But then I had finished in the dealer room, basically. I had had my fill. I felt sated. I said to myself, nope, I don't want to buy anything else. I just don't. I'm ready. I'm done. Let's go and just sit in the bar and fiddle about with what I've just bought. And then I saw Then I saw Umar's. It just stood there on the table in front of him, and I looked at it and I swore to myself because I thought, no, I've got to go and buy one of these now. I've got to go back in there and get this. I'm not coming away without one of these, because look at it, all of this teal, all this metallic teal on his chest here, just a massive block of it right there, and the stripes are metallic teal as well. Oh my god, this is such a good looking thing, and like the shiny silver head and all the different teal bits all over the place, and his purple pants. Like, I already know that the proper normal Grimlock is an amazing thing. Like, it's basically a perfect toy, isn't it? You know, for a leader figure to be this big and chunky and clicky, but also really easy and fun to transform. Like, it's not a pain in the arse, and it doesn't take 5 minutes, and it's not all fiddly. It's straightforward. It's big motions. It's chunky, chunk. So I already knew that it's a good mould. If maybe his arms are a bit long, I find that off-putting on this one. But I'm not noticing it so much on this one, actually. And I don't know whether that's just because my eye is being drawn to other parts of the design here from the colour palette, but this is better. Oh my god, you've taken what is already a stellar toy and just made it like zoom into the stratosphere. Oh, I love it. And like how the dino neck is actually see-through on this one, so you see all new detail that's actually inside that one that you can't see because it's painted over. Oh my god. And then the dinosaur eyes are teal as well. Oh. No, I said I love Towline, and he's very, very close to being like the best thing, but this is noises. This has got to be the best thing that I picked up, and it was the very last thing that I picked up. You know, it was that kind of, oh, you've enabled me. I've seen one in person, so now I simply must buy it. I must go back in there without further ado. Nothing will stop me. Nothing will stand in my way. I'm buying one and taking it home, and I'm going to enjoy it very much. And I sat there in the bar opening it up, and it was just like, and then I was properly happy that all my purchases were done, and I was fully satisfied. So then I could just sit there and chill for a while. Just sit there with my mates, just chatting, having a laugh, fiddling about with what new things you got. And honestly, it was like only basically an hour before I had to go and get the train. That was the absolute best bit of TFM for me. Of the whole weekend, that was the best bit. Just sitting there thinking, yeah, we're done. We're kind of done. I know I've got to go home soon, but let's just chill and vibe. That was what it was all about. Isn't that right, Greymon Grimlock? Yes, it is. Oh, yes, we love that. God, I really hope they do the green swoop. I know we there isn't a swoop. Like, we haven't seen that yet. We're still waiting for that, aren't we? Quite avidly, I think a lot of people are. But please just do that one in green. I don't really want an orange sludge. Not really. Not so much up on that. But you do a bright green swoop. Yeah, I'm having that. So that was the TFN that was 2023. Yeah, it was a bit up and down for me. Like in the odd sort of liminal moments where, in those minutes where you're wandering the hotel, going back to your room or coming back or whatever, and sitting and having a pot noodle, those bits weren't so great. Those bits were times where I did honestly just feel some kind of combo breaker of exhaustion and anxiety. You know, because it is kind of unavoidable, I think, for me. The way my brain works these days, even though it's absolutely the best weekend of the year, and you don't want to ever associate it with anything bad, you're just gonna feel a bit sort of ooh. And I felt quite a bit of that this year. But you know, sometimes it do be like that. And you know, I'm not the only person that felt like that. So I don't know, maybe we're all just growing. Maybe we're all just aging out of the party mode. I don't know. Like, I'm starting to realise what it was that Dorian used to feel at these. Back in the years gone by, when I was still in my bright young 20s, and he would sort of go around and say, oh, I just need to sit down and just be by myself for 5 minutes, you know. Yeah, maybe that's sort of becoming a thing. Same time next year, yeah. Safe.